Merry Christmas, everybody. And Merry Christmas to me, especially, because I just got over 100 subscribers. Hooray! This is my 100 subscriber special. And yes, this is me, in the flesh, standing right in front of you. Thank you all so much. Couldn't have done it without you. I'm so glad for all my subscribers and supporters. Thank you all. So, I thought of doing something special for my 100 subscriber, So I thought I should do a Q&A. And to make it extra special, this is me right now. It's no longer mystery what I look like, but don't worry, my cartoony alien I use for my top 10 lists, who I named Cyrus now. Don't worry, he'll still be around. I'll still use him in my top 10 videos. Though I think depending on how well this video does and general feedback, I might appear more in videos. As well, I should mention that this isn't going to be my only Q&A, so ask some questions down in the comments below, because I might do another Q&A soon, and this will be the perfect place to ask your questions. So anyways, I decided, since my channel is mostly based around movies, most of the time, I decided to ask some of my good friends and colleagues, ask me just one random movie question per person. So today you're gonna get to know a little bit more about me. So, let's begin.
Eric asks, what is my least favorite fairy tale story? By the way, I won't say anybody's last name just to avoid their information from getting out too much.
That's an interesting question. I mean, I did talk to him a bit about it. It does count as a movie question because, there's been tons of adaptations about fairy tales, but I don't know, most fairy tales are pretty good, and to be honest, a lot of them have different story standards, but if I had to think about one I didn't like, I'd have to think about it. I'd say maybe Little Jack Horner. Actually, no, that's more of a fable, but it's just about a fat ass who, just sticks his thumb inside pies. Like, that's so unsanitary. Ew. No wonder they made him a villain in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. But okay, so I guess that's my least favorite fairy tale. But if you want an actual fairy tale that doesn't count as a nursery rhyme, I don't know. Maybe that one with the goats I didn't think was very memorable. I forget, but I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about if you look it up. Anyways, next question.
Ben asks, what is your favorite movie genre?
Well, that's a good question, Ben. You see, I'd have to think about that, but I feel like if you asked me a while ago, I'd probably say comedy, and well, of course I still love my comedy movies. I feel like there is some comedy movies that are just plain dumb, but But if I had to pick my favorite movie genre overall, probably adventure, just because it's such an expandable genre. It's a lot of mainstream movies and just well-liked movies fall under the adventure category to some extent. So I'm gonna have to go with adventure for my favorite movie genre.
Alex asks, what movie do I think is the most technically difficult?
Oh, I think I get what you mean by this. Probably took a long time to make, or probably the hardest, or just technically impressive. Well, of course people could say something like Avatar, because geez, that is some impressive CGI, whether you like the movies or not. You do have to admit that is impressive, and if you go behind the scenes, yeah, definitely a lot of work. However, it is, and I don't even know how they did the underwater stuff in the way of water, but if I had to think of, this is going to be a weird, however, I will say this. In terms of just impressiveness, maybe not necessarily the best looking movie, especially nowadays, but the original black and white King Kong was definitely a milestone. They did stop motion, they did props, and they even had an actual giant mechanical ape. Once again, obviously there's better looking movies now, but considering the technology they had at the time, that is damn impressive.
Josh asks, what is the best movie of the last decade?
Oh, jeez. Come on, there's so many good movies, and honestly, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. You know what I mean? It's just I feel like time flies so fast. Sometimes you'll see somebody say they have a childhood movie from 2016, and I'm like, oh god, time's moving so fast. So it feels like you know what I mean? It's like time's going so fast, so it's like you don't keep up. But however, if I had to pick from the last decade, I mean, like, you know, so in just the last 10 years, that is a hard one. However, in terms of a pretty good recent movie, like, I'd have to think, but this is definitely a recent one as of this video. But have you ever seen the movie Jojo Rabbit? Now that's a great one. I mean, like I said, I don't know if it's my favorite of the past decade, but it's definitely a recent movie and it's definitely a good choice.
Andrew asks, favorite movie with a puppet?
Interesting question. What do you mean by that? I mean, technically speaking, a lot of movies, especially in the 80s and the 90s, did feature a lot of puppets. Of, you know, like special effects, like, you know, of course, stuff like E.T. and Gremlins, like, some of the times they would have puppets, but when you mean by a movie with puppets, it's like, do you mean like something like The Muppets, where it's like the characters are puppets and the movie is very self-aware that the characters are puppets? Or do you mean a movie where it's like every character is a puppet? Like, although the only two movies that come to mind are The Dark Crystal and Team America World Police when it comes to those type of movies. Although, I'd have to think, if that's what you mean by favorite movie starring all puppets, probably either The Dark Crystal, which is a great film, or Team America World Police, which is pretty funny. So yeah, I guess I'll go with one of those two if you mean an all puppet movie. However, if you mean like, you know, just a movie that happens to have a puppet in it, I'd still have to think about that.
Leon asks, what is my most hated film genre?
That's a good question. As a guy who's been watching movies all his life and has learned to love, like, every genre has its gems, it's kind of hard for me to say, to, like, just single out a genre saying, oh, it's all crap. I mean, I think when I was a teen, I'd be like, oh, romantic movies are stupid, but it's like, I don't know, there's definitely some good movies in that genre, and you know what I mean? It's just not fair to just dismiss an entire genre. However, if you mean subgenres, like, you know what I mean, I'd say the handheld, it's not really a full-on genre, but any movie that has handheld cameras as, like, the main thing, I'm not a fan of. Like, I mean, like, you know, it just looks like shit. I mean, it's like, oh, geez, it's like, you know, come on, it doesn't look professional, and it just gives me nauseous. Ugh. So I guess that would be my least favorite genre.
Kareem asks, have I ever been on a movie set before?
Well, I mean, I've seen what a movie set looks like, and I've seen equipment, but no, I don't think I've ever been on a movie set. However, I have been walking through town and I have seen some sort of filming going on. So, I mean, I probably shouldn't have gone on, you know, just to, you know, and I don't know what they were filming, but, I mean, it's worth noting that, does that count?
Kyle asks, what was the first film I saw in theaters?
We all have that first movie we watched in theaters. However, when trying to think back, this is probably the first movie I remember seeing in theaters. Like I said, keep in mind, maybe I did see a movie before that I don't remember, but I think the earliest memory I have with being in the theater is probably Finding Nemo. You know, the Pixar movie with the fish. I think that might have been the first movie I saw in theaters, unless there's some movie I saw before that I just don't remember.
Lucy asks, aliens or predators?
Well, I'll probably say that the aliens in those movies are probably more interesting with their biology and the thing that comes out of their mouth. I mean, don't get me wrong, Predator is definitely a classic, you know, creature. But I think the aliens are a little bit more interesting, especially because their biology is definitely alien.
Crystal asks, what is my most overrated movie?
Good question. You see, I actually did make a top 10 overrated movies list a while back. And at the time, I did put the entire, like, all four of the Avengers movies at the time, just because I was seeing them everywhere and I was getting kind of annoyed. And at that point, I think in 2017 is when I officially got Marvel fatigue. I was just like, there's too many Marvel movies. However, that was a while ago I made that video, so I don't think that holds up anymore. And let me put it this way. I mean, now that Marvel movies aren't everywhere and, like, aren't constantly being shoved down my throat, so to speak, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're not really bad. It's not a bad studio, it's just that I was getting kind of tired, like, a new one every month. But now that they're not nearly as everywhere, and some people have said that they're not as good as they used to be, I don't think the Avengers, four films, like, what do you call it? There's the trilogy, a duology, I don't know what it's kind of escaping my mind at the time. I feel dumb, but I don't think it would classify as the most overrated movie anymore. I mean, However, if you do remember, if you have seen that list, once again, don't get mad at me, it's all my opinion, but if you have seen that list, you do realize that Titanic was number 2 on my most overrated movie list. And yeah, I still stand by and thinking it's overrated. I mean, it's just kind of a cliche love story, generic. However, just set on a cruise ship. However, I will say this, I did put Wolf of Wall Street on my top 10 overrated movies list. However, I'm not gonna lie, out of all the movies on my list, I feel like that's the one people disagree with me the most. Like, let me put it this way, I feel like all my friends and just about everybody I've talked to loves that movie except me. It's like, so, I mean, that might be the one that that seems to be the one that people disagree with me most, so to speak. Like, I mean, with the other movies, people will say like, oh, I see your point, or I agree, but I think I'm the only one who doesn't like Wolf of Wall Street.
Colin asks, what draws my attention to certain movies the most?
You see, well, I think what he means by that is like, if I look at a movie and just look into it, it's like, what would grab my attention the most into watching it? That's my interpretation of the question, and honestly, I'd say if it just has a premise that interests me, you know, if it has like some kind of unique style or just feels different from other movies, or if it has a really hot girl in it. But, you know, I think those are what usually draw my attention towards movies.
Eric asks, what is my favorite war movie?
Good question. I honestly haven't seen that many war movies. I feel like it's like the least viewed genre of mine, but I don't know. I mean, maybe 1917, that was pretty good. I mean, like I said, keep in mind I've only seen like 5 or maybe 6 or 7 war movies, but I guess I'll go with that one for now.
Sam asks, who's a better dancer, Fred Astaire or Gene Kelly?
Good question. I'm probably going to go with Gene Kelly, just more iconic, and I've tried to mimic it, but I'm not very good.
Cade asks, what's a movie I think everybody should see?
Good question. In what sense? I feel like everybody should probably watch, I don't know, maybe Toy Story in terms of like if they want to know how far animation has come and just in terms of what it means.
Trish asks, worst movie of all time?
Good question. Now that is a difficult one because there is a lot of really bad movies. I mean, like I said, it's kind of hard to pick one that just stands out as truly awful. But if I had to pick right now, I'd go with God's Not Dead, just because it's basically just propaganda. I don't care what you believe in, but it's kind of shoving their views down your throat, and of course there's the whole fact that basically
Editor's note. After thinking about it, I'd say Biodome is a worse movie. Man, screw that movie, it's friggin' awful. It's probably worse than God's Not Dead, so it might be the worst movie I've ever seen. Maylene asks, who is my favorite actor? Male.
Good question. You see, there is a lot of good actors to choose from. Like, you know, people will say somebody like Robert Downey Jr. or Leonardo DiCaprio. Although I want to be a little bit more original and pick somebody who wouldn't be on everybody's list. I mean, I'll go with Tyrone Egerton, because why not? He's somewhat underrated. He's kind of up and coming, so I'll go with him. Why not? Good question. You see, I plan to actually do a top 10 underrated movies list someday. Think about it. I already did my top 10 overrated movies lists. Why not do the role reversal and do my top 10 underrated movies list? It's kind of hard to think. Like I said, I will get to it one day, but as for just one movie off the top of my head that I think is one movie off the top of my head that I think is underrated. Have you heard of the movie Half Brothers? It's a pretty good film, just barely anybody knows about it.
Maggie asks, what is my most accurate rated movie?
Good question. That's kind of hard. I mean, like, you know, I think what she means by that is, you know, like, if it has 90 on Rotten Tomatoes, I'm like, you agree with that? It's like, it's kind of hard to pick just one, but I feel like, you know, it's like a lot of classic movies and even just well-received movies get pretty high scores. I'm always like, yeah, I agree with that. That's good. And if a movie I really dislike has a very low score, I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. Although there have been times where it's like I dislike the movie, but even though I thought the score was kind of low, I'm like, it's bad, but not that bad. But in terms of the most accurate rated film, why not? Back to the Future. It has a 90-something% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it definitely deserves that.
Jaden asks, what is my least favorite Marvel movie?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that. There's some good ones, some bad ones. My least favorite Marvel movie. Let me think. Oh, okay. I mean, to be fair, keep in mind, I haven't seen all of them. Like, I haven't seen every single one of them, but as for my least favorite ones I've seen, probably Thor: The Dark World I found really boring and just kind of, forgettable. And, yeah, but keep in mind, I haven't seen every single Marvel movie, so I don't know if, but that would probably be my least favorite.
Anthony, another one, asks, what's a movie world I'd live in?
If I had to be inside a movie world, where would I be? Well, I mean, oh, I know. This is kind of going to be a weird choice, but ever see the animated movie Robots? Now that looks like a fun world to be in, considering like how they travel around and such like that. It's something interesting.
Robert asks, best film score.
Ah, good question. That's gonna be my thing now. The best film score, I think the best film score would have to be, just like I said, the Interstellar score. Now that's an epic score. It's been used in memes, but both in the context, but even within the context of the movie, it sounds amazing. Just listen to it. Like, dun, 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 dun. Trust me, it sounds better when you hear it.
Shane asks, is Home Alone the best Christmas movie?
Well, don't get me wrong, it's a classic for sure. However, I wouldn't say it's my personal favorite Christmas movie. I actually kind of prefer movies like Elf and the Grinch more. Sorry.
Max asks, what is my favorite and least favorite DreamWorks movie?
Ah, good question. Now this is a difficult one because there's been plenty of great DreamWorks movies over the years. I mean, if I had to pick one right now, maybe, like I said, come on, it's like, there's just so many good ones. I might say Shrek 2, because that's still a classic, and like I said, just never gets old. Although I do like a lot of their other films, like Kung Fu Panda, How to Train Your Dragon. Although, like I said, it's a hard choice, but I think I'll go with that one for now. However, as for my least favorite DreamWorks movie, this is probably one that isn't brought up a lot in conversation. And like I said, even when discussing DreamWorks in general, this movie is barely brought up. But it is a movie by them. It's Spirit Untamed, the sequel on Netflix, and yeah, I can see why it was only for Netflix. It's not very good.
Will asks, favorite scary movie?
Ah, good question. You see, if you do realize, I did do a top 10 horror comedies list a while back, and it's pretty good. Still pretty good. I definitely recommend you check it out if you haven't seen it. However, if you mean by favorite horror, like favorite scary movie that doesn't classify as a comedy horror, I don't know. How about, I mentioned Aliens earlier. I said I like that movie, and that's not a comedy, so maybe that will be my favorite scary movie, maybe?
Paul asks, what is the best movie to be released during the lockdown era?
Ah, good question. Although, I don't know if I can say the word because YouTube doesn't like that. Anyways, during, that era, during lockdown, the best movie to release during that era, like I said, I'd have to go through the whole list, but one I remember really liking that came out during the COVID era was Mitchell's vs. the Machines, which, unfortunately, due to that era, due to the time it came out, didn't get a full theatrical release, but, anyway, Mom, what's the matter?
Nothing.
But yeah, it was a good film. Like I said, I'd have to look through and find out all the movies that were... I remember a lot of movies from that time, but I don't know when it was during the vid or after the vid, you know what I mean, when the world was crap. Anyways. Ah, good question. Oh, there's tons of... I think usually means like a character who was an animal, there's tons like Mufasa or Donkey, or heck, if you want to stretch it, maybe Chewbacca from Star Wars. He's kind of an animal, and maybe Gizmo from Gremlins. But like I said, my favorite animal from a movie. That's a good, tough question. Probably one of the ones I just mentioned. my questions answered from me to you. I hope you enjoyed, and like I said, please leave some comments in the please leave some questions in the comments and tell me what you thought of the video. I hope you enjoyed, and like I said, thank you all so much for getting me to 100 subscribers. Like, I couldn't have done it without you, obviously, and it is just a big benchmark. Like, I mean, it is just such a big number to get to. I'll see you guys next time.